So it turns out that forgetting to stay consistent with unilateral work has fucked me up. It was very humbling, to be honest. It was very, very humbling. It comes off the back of a period where I'd have to look back at my training log, but I feel like I was doing unilateral work consistently for a couple of months. And then I stopped very abruptly. Very, very abruptly, now that I think about it. I'm going to have to go back through the log and really figure out, crunch some numbers, because the way I felt in the Bulgarian split squat today was nothing short of just horrible. It was brutal. And my adductor, especially on my right leg, was not happy. It felt extremely weak and compromised. I wouldn't know how else to explain it besides saying it was compromised, because whilst it wasn't a pain when coming out of what I guess you could call the hole in the Bulgarian, it was extremely uncomfortable. It wasn't quite pain. It wasn't quite pain. It was very uncomfortable. It felt extremely weak. A lot of instability. And I can't help but feel like that's expected when you put so much work into something specific like unilateral stuff, especially the Bulgarian split squat. I was going hard on the Bulgarian split squat now that I think about it. And then to completely pull away from that, dramatically reduce the amount I train my legs, dramatically increase the amount I walk and the amount I stretch. It's a recipe for disaster. In hindsight, it's a recipe for disaster. However, I'm glad that I've been slapped in the face by it now rather than later on down the line and allowed it to cause me any problems, because I had been feeling that my right, I don't even know if I could call it the adductor. I'll have to look at my anatomy book and try and figure out exactly what it is, because it's right, it feels like it's right on the insert of my groin, where my groin meets my pelvis. It's right on the insert, and it's not quite, if you imagine the quad and the adductor and the T-band, and the hamstring, if you imagine the upper leg like a box, looking at it from face up, then it would be the left side, but it wouldn't be smack bang in the middle. It'd be kind of high where your groin meets your pelvis, and if you're a male, just above your penis basically. And it's fucking, getting out of that hole, yeah man, really fucking uncomfortable. So that's something that I definitely need to give some food for thought, and definitely need to give some more time to and more effort to, because I've realized it today that I've significantly reduced the amount I train my legs, and taking into consideration, the amount I've been stretching, that's not a good mix. That's really, really not a good mix. Because when I say the amount I've been stretching, I haven't been doing or setting time aside to stretch, but the life I've been living has required me to live in more of stretched positions more often than not, more often than I used to at the very least. So I'm gaining ranges of motion without adding or improving or even maintaining any strength. I've become so, how would I put it? I've begun again to enjoy so much training upper body, specifically the deadlifts, dead stop rows, and now bench press, that training legs has really got drowned out for me. It's really been drowned out, and that's a really bad thing, especially considering the volume in which I used to train legs. I can imagine it being a grave shock to that area of muscles in a really bad way. But like I said, I'm glad that I've realized it now. This is somewhat of a checkpoint, I guess you could say, and a moment in time for me to take a look back at my log, what I've been doing, and pay some more attention to my legs and give them the respect that they deserve, which is really important. Interestingly, I am beginning to adopt a principle that a subscriber gave me, actually, because I was feeling like I was struggling to squeeze in everything I wanted to squeeze in 1 week. He said, why don't you look at your work from the perspective of 2 weeks? Gives you a lot more time to work with. However, I've ended up, I'm 2 weeks in now, I think. I've ended up doing it from a monthly perspective. So I'm going to look at my training in monthly blocks. And the first half of this, not monthly, but 4 weeks. The first half of this 4-week block has been predominantly dead stock rows, deadlifts, and bench press. With, out of 14 days, 3 squat sessions thrown in, which for me is 3 leg sessions, which isn't enough. That's a really, really, really low percentage. It's like, what, 20%? That's crazy considering that it's less. It's just a bit less than 20%, considering that I was at a point where I was working my legs a good, there was a point where it was a good 50-70% of the time before developing that quad issue. So it's time to pattern up, really, and double down on what needs to be attacked, where my weaknesses are at, so on and so forth. And it's come at a perfect time because I can somewhat feel that I'm slightly overworking, ever so slightly overworking my upper body from a perspective of rushing it, from a perspective of, whilst the workload that I'm doing isn't so strenuous that it's causing me pain, discomfort, or any like serious red flags, I can feel that certain areas, my elbows, like the musculature around my collarbone, it's just a bit strained. It's not used to this kind of load, which is understandable. I spent so much time. In order to develop this momentum, in order to get into training every day, I was training legs for a good year. Like, as crazy as that sounds, I was training legs like 5 days a week for a good year. And that doesn't mean I was absolutely going to war every single day training my legs. No, not at all. But my legs were being worked every single day. That was the thing I enjoyed training the most in the gym. So that was what I did. So it's time to pay some more respect and focus a little bit more, I guess. Distribute time more wisely. If you made this far, thank you for listening, and I shall see you tomorrow.